This scene is a fever dream. He ingests the cure and descends into a Clive Barker-esque attempt to exorcise demons, but he comes through it, though, apparently cured. This compounds the final hell that he finds himself in. Despite taking the only known antidote to his situation, he's still unable to escape. And that's the point of the scene, and although the ending certainly leaves no doubt as to where Jacob ends up, this scene removes any doubt as to whether or not he ever had a chance of heading somewhere else at all. Number 3, Get Out. Rose was hypnotized too. So Huffington Post actually wrote this one, and the scene in question is available online. It's a super short scene where Rose and Chris discuss the hypnosis session with her mother. He describes it as he experienced it, sinking into a hole, getting lost in the dark. In the deleted scene, Rose says that she once felt the exact same thing during a session with her mother. Now, Rose is detestable. She is not only fully aware of her parents' actions, but she is the tool by which they locate people to be sold as new bodies for their white alien friends. The smile on her face as Chris strangles her in the final scene wipes away any lingering sadness within her. So if the confusion of the film is simply how can somebody be such a horrid person, then the hypnosis scene goes a little way towards suggesting that there might have actually been a chance for hope for this family. If Rose had been coerced into her actions by her mother, she becomes a victim rather than a willing accomplice. It changes the narrative of the film, elevating her from an absolutely awful human being to being every bit as trapped as Chris. But in the version that we saw, nah, she's done for, son. Number 2, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Nancy's sibling was Freddy's original victim. While no one would blame the parents of Elm Street for hunting down a child killer and enacting their own form of vigilante justice on him, although I have to state here what culture does not endorse vigilante justice, one thing that was dropped from the movie goes a little bit further towards explaining just why these specific children are being terrorized and why Nancy's mother chooses to drink herself to oblivion. You see, the children that Freddy attacked when he was human were the symptoms of the fears that the audience meets in the film. All of the parents that the audience encounters have dealt with the trauma of losing children to Freddy's evil before. As Nancy's mother explains, they killed him, he's dead, and he's not coming back. Sealed in with this murder is the faith in the belief that they will avenge their firstborn children. It's a sad detail that was omitted from the final cut, which makes the identities of the kids that Freddy killed a little bit more ambiguous. It was presumably considered to be a bit too much to put on the parents, so the death allowed the children that died to be less directly connected. Still something a fraction less crushing. And number 1, The Thing. What happened to Niles? The Thing, a frequent flyer on whatculture.com, has a scene that was written and storyboarded but never quite made it into the filming stage, presumably due to the expense in filming. It definitively answers the question of what happened to Knowles in the final act of the film. After Gary is attacked by Blair, Knowles spots Gary's body twitching in the distance. He walks away to investigate, and this is the last that we see of him in the theatrical version of the film. In the script, however, Knowles was to walk around the corner and be overcome by the Blair Thing. The scene with MacReady would then proceed similarly until the Blair Thing's tentacles erupt from the floor. Knowles' body would appear first, showing a tentacle being forced through his torso. And the worst thing is that he wouldn't actually be dead yet, and would beg MacReady to put him out of his misery. Many little tentacles would then erupt from his body as this happened. And then the finale would unfold as it did in the film, with MacReady tossing the dynamite at the creature before meeting for his final enigmatic talk with Childs. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 deleted scenes that explain confusing horror movie moments. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
What is By its very nature, so much of the horror genre involves huge amounts of people biting the bullet. And where the slasher subgenre is concerned, that's even more true. After all, the slasher subgenre, which is largely viewed as being ushered in by both Bob Clark's Black Christmas and John Carpenter's Halloween, was the one that became infamous for the amount of bodies these films would pile up. While less is so often more,
Figured out that
films
I
aim
can
to get
use
a higher
this
body
type of
count
mask
as
like a Halloween
possible.
costume.
With the more inventive and gory the kills,
Figured
the
out.
better. When it comes to surviving
Do
a
this.
slasher picture, sometimes it's down to luck. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's
this
down
literally
to
looks like a
helping
Halloween
you out.
costume.
And sometimes
Sorta.
it's down to the simple yet oft avoided notion of using your brain to make smart choices. Opting to make a smart choice in the realm of
Oh
the
my
slasher
god,
movie
do I
has
still
so
fogged
often
up?
made the difference between whether a character lives or dies.
Definitely can't use it
And
for
here are 10 such examples
with my glasses.
of truly inspired wise choices made within the confines of the slasher genre. I'm Jess McDonald for What Culture. Spoilers lie ahead. Number 10. Giving the correct answer in Silent Night, Deadly Night. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do in a horror movie is to simply tell some murderous killer whatever they want to hear. In 1984, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Billy Chapman's strict orphanage upbringing eventually results in him leading with a firm hand when it comes to punishment in later life. All of this capitulates on one Christmas Eve, when Billy, decked out as Santa Claus for his boss, snaps and goes on a murder spree. Like so many films of the time, a hefty body count is amassed in a timely fashion. Yet there's one brief moment of hesitation during Billy's bloodthirsty rampage. That hesitation comes when, after having killed the babysitter and her boyfriend, Santa Billy encounters a young girl. Taking a moment, Billy asks the girl whether she's been naughty or nice. After Cindy proclaims she's been nice, she's gifted with a bloody knife as Santa Claus goes on his way. Should she had openly admitted to being naughty, Santa would have clearly handed out the strictest punishment possible to Cindy. Showing that he'd think nothing of killing a child, it's only minutes later that we see Billy decapitate a young bully. Because bullying is clearly naughty and totally
If I get this
right.
shoe in that trash
Number
can,
9,
y'all have
playing
you have to
hustle
either like
in
or
Jason
comment
Goes
the
to
video.
Hell. The opening scene to Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, starts in gloriously generic fashion. We first see a typical, disposable, and needlessly naked, of course, young adult in a classic cabin in the woods setting. Wouldn't you know it, but this vulnerable woman soon finds herself being stalked by Jason Voorhees. Quicker than you can say, grab a towel and run for your life.
If I make
Poor
his
victim is
phone into the
stranded
trash
in the middle
can,
of the woods and has the hulking frame of Jason towering over her. The thing is, this was all actually part of the cunning ruse to lure Jason to his ultimate
this one is
demise.
practically broken.
While
Might as well
Jason
just throw
Goes
it
to
away.
Hell is a painful film to
Jeez.
watch at times,
So
credit
I'm not
has
gonna
to
throw
at
it away
least
because
be
I want to
given
probably
the
save it for like a
refreshingly
video where I
hidden
can
opening act.
like destroy
You see,
it. But
that
if I make this one into
disposable
the trash
young
can,
adult is really an undercover FBI agent.
actually it'll probably be a bad
Lure
idea
Jason
because then
out
it might
into
be
an
glass
open
on
part
the
of the
floor.
woods where a
I might not be able to
SWAT
see it,
team
so
are
it's
waiting to blow
practically a bad
Voorhees
idea.
to smithereens.
I
Despite
can't
the
turn
plan
the
to
phone
literally
off.
blow Jason
Jeez.
up working so well,
That's how
what the
destroyed
SWAT
that
team
phone
and
is.
disgruntled audiences didn't fathom in is that this
Don't
would
destroy
lead
it,
to
I
a
can't even
movie
turn it
where the
off.
turd-looking spirit of Jason was orally passed from person to person throughout the rest of the film, resulting in a Friday the 13th movie that had only a matter of minutes with the physical presence of Jason Voorhees on screen. Number 8. Nancy turning her back on Freddy, A Nightmare on Elm Street. You could argue that the smartest decision surrounding A Nightmare on Elm Street was actually New Line Cinema's decision to produce the picture in the first place. At that point in time, New Line was largely a distribution house rather than a studio that developed films. Taking a chance on producing Wes Craven's 1984 A Nightmare on Elm Street, that decision proved to be so smart that the studio was given the nickname of the house that Freddy built, with that debut Elm Street offering proving to be a huge hit. To look more closely at the narrative of A Nightmare on Elm Street, though, the prime smarts on show are those of Nancy Thompson. Firstly, Nancy has the wherewithal to bring Freddy Krueger's trademark fedora hat out of her dream and into the real world. Secondly, Nancy wisely booby traps her home ahead of a plan to bring Freddy out of her dream and into the real world. The smartest decision of all, well, that would be Nancy in the film's final battle, opting to simply turn her back on Robert Englund's Krueger. Having realized realized that Freddy thrives on fear, Nancy ignoring him becomes powerless, and thus the creepy bastard vanishes into thin air. Number 7, head for the slaughterhouse in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People balk at the idea of putting a new spin on an old classic and the rehashing of old ideas being one of Hollywood's greatest cruxes in recent times. Originality and new ideas are out the window, they say, and what was once old is now new again. Despite a large portion of remakes being admittedly either A, pointless, or B, goddamn awful, one of the better remakes out there is Marcus Nispel's 2003 The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. On the smart font, it's Jessica Biel's Erin that gets kudos here. After being put through the usual torture and torment associated with the Sawyer family, Erin's running for her life as the bounding figure of Leatherface closes in on her. In a move that proved to be the game-changing moment in Erin's battle for her life, she decides to take a shortcut in the Sawyer clan's slaughterhouse. Probably this resting place was simply chosen because it was the nearest place available when a chainsaw-wielding maniac is on your tail. But the happenstance of this safeguard locale was that Leatherface was unable to find Erin, especially thanks to a timely pig that happened to get in Leatherface's viewpoint. Thanks to that pig distracting old Leatherface, it gave Erin the chance to launch a surprise meat cleaver attack on her hulking opponent and rip off one of his arms before making her big fist-pumping escape to freedom.